What's up, GERO 200? Hey, it's February 12th, Super Bowl Sunday 2023, and it's time to learn a little bit of something about aging, okay? And specifically, we're going to go into week, I believe it is 6, and we're going to look at diabetes. The CT2s are coming up next. CT1s are due February 13th, all right? So that would be tomorrow. We'll look forward to looking at all you guys' analysis. It's a super fun assignment, okay? Other than that, definitely calendar up the midterm. Don't forget about that too. That's February 26th, okay? And you have, as you can see, an entire week to get it done. Once you get in and get going, you have 2 hours unless you have OSAS accommodation. But you have any time during that week to get it done. All right, let's go. All right, so like I said, we are down here. We're at week 6, okay? So we've kind of set everything up. We talked a lot about in weeks 1, 2, and 3, both globally and in our country, about the economic burden that is associated with having aging populations. A big part of that economic burden has to do with the non-infectious, non-communicable diseases of aging. These progressive diseases of aging over a lifetime. Last time we talked about cancer. Again, we gave you a good primer in week 4 about aging and what's going on with aging and why it is the #1 risk for all these diseases that we're looking at here. And it's just it's an accumulation of damage, basically an accumulation of pathology and problems. All right, so this is a big one. About half of our country is pre-diabetic or diabetic. Diabetes radiates to cause risk for so many diseases. Even cancer, diabetes is a big risk factor for cancer. We didn't get into that last week. But let's go ahead and get into diabetes this week, okay? Again, my video will be going right here, okay? And so what we do is we have a couple of little slide decks for you guys to look at here. This was put together a while back, 2015. It's done really well. The basics of diabetes, which has been with us for thousands of years, okay, haven't changed, okay? And then from there we go down here and we look at some of the more up-to-date information about the global impact on diabetes. And it's anytime we look at the implications, consequences of an aging society, we throw it right back at you and your personal experience. Then we expand outward to communities, cities, states, our country, and then globally. And it's an enormous financial burden, and it's also a personal burden. And we're going to go into the complications of diabetes that are some serious health problems associated with it. So what you do is you just click on here on the PDF file, okay? It's going to pop right up. You open up your PDF file, and there it is. And while it's 27 pages long, it's not that much of a investment in terms of your time, okay? So again, you just point right here, okay? So this is one of the ones that only works with the hand. It's not going to work with the arrow, at least in my pewter, but you can just go page by page, and I think that's the best way. All right, so we go right here. So it talks about how we process food. Again, diabetes is a reflection of the inability to handle blood glucose. And there's a couple different ways. We're going to talk about type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is juvenile onset, type 2 is adult onset. And one has to do with just really bad luck, type 1, and you get a virus like a cold or the flu, the Rona, something like that. And sadly, the virus is attacked by our immune system, and it can also attack the pancreas. Type 2 is just long-term consequences of genetic vulnerability and some lifestyle choices that are not that great, all right? So again, the goal is to keep our blood glucose under control. When you have a meal, okay, you see G is glucose, all right? So the glucose enters your bloodstream from your intestines. And one of the very first places that the blood sees as it leaves your intestines is your pancreas, and your pancreas then will then secrete insulin. All right, these are called the beta cells, and then the insulin what it does is it will go off, and just like a key fitting into a lock, tells fat cells, muscle cells, and liver cells to act like a vacuum cleaner and suck the glucose into the cells. Okay, and then you use it as you need it. All right, so that's the way our glucose homeostasis, our glucose control works. Okay, alrighty. The condition of hyperglycemia is where you're not controlling your blood glucose, okay? And that could be a situation where you don't have enough insulin because your pancreas is failing, or you've had autoimmune disease and your pancreas is gone, okay? You can also have the other side where cells can't use the insulin because the receptors are resistant to the action of insulin. And then when that happens, in your brain is saying, well, God, where's the fuel? You know, because your brain has insulin receptors as well. And so it just says, tells the liver, and via a completely different mechanism, hey, we need some fuel. It releases growth hormone, and growth hormone goes down there and causes the liver to release glucose. So you have tons of glucose already in the blood, and now you go into overdrive because of this mistake, right? Okay, so what are the symptoms? When you have a lot of glucose in your bloodstream, um, you basically should be controlling your blood glucose. It should be what's called 100 milligrams percent, so it should be at 100 or lower. Okay, we're going to learn later on about the readout of your chronic levels of glucose is how much glucose attaches to the hemoglobin molecule that's in your red blood cells, and that's called hemoglobin A1C or HbA1c. And you should be below about 6.5% of those hemoglobin molecules having that glucose stuck to it or glycated, okay? But when you have just high circulating levels of glucose, it's just like at home when you take glucose and you put it into a glass of water and you stir it up, it disappears, and that's because the water molecules hydrated, they surround it, and so it has this appearance of being transparent. So everywhere the glucose goes, water goes with it. All right, so this is a very long-winded way of saying this. So what happens is when your blood goes through your kidneys, you have a ton of urination. Okay, because you can't pull your kidneys are not set up to be pulling out all the glucose. So you have a very actually sugary pee, and everywhere the glucose goes, it pulls water with it, and so as a result, you get very thirsty. Okay. Your cells are not getting glucose put inside them. So you feel very tired. Again, it could be one to two mechanisms, either not enough insulin or you're not sensitive to the insulin that's being released, okay? When you have high levels of blood glucose, it causes major vascular problems, okay? It's a risk for heart disease, peripheral artery disease, kidney disease from malfunction of your blood vessels. You have a retinopathy, meaning a pathology of the back of your eye, because the blood vessels are compromised. And it all comes down to the abnormality of glucose that screws up the blood vessels through a really complicated kind of inflammation process, all right? So as a result, you get blurry vision, okay? Because of this inflammation and really poor delivery of blood in these compromised blood vessels, you get cuts and you get wounds. You have a serious amount of infections because of the bad blood vessels. You can actually, in the end, begin to actually lose weight. Okay, now we're going to see later on, obesity is the #1 risk factor for diabetes, but at the end stage of diabetes, you can really have a lot of wasting, nausea, and vomiting as well. Okay, cool. All right, so here are some of the long-term problems. Okay, anywhere a blood vessel goes, it can be compromised. Blindness, your kidneys stop working, kidney disease, nerve damage, especially in the most distant part of your blood vessels. So it could be in your fingertips, but really more likely in your legs and your feet. That can result also in amputation because of the poor delivery of blood down there. The blood vessels to the heart are severely compromised. The big blood vessels really get hammered, and that then also causes risk for stroke. Like I said before, there's type 1 and type 2 diabetes, okay? Type 1, the pancreas is not making insulin because it's been attacked by the immune system, okay? So this is what's called an insulin-dependent diabetic. And at a very young age, you have to learn how to monitor your blood sugar, and then you'll take insulin injections. And then that allows your body to package away the insulin, the sugar, and use it for when you need it, okay? Type 2 diabetes, this right here is adult onset, age-related. There's a genetic predisposition. If you have it in your family line, it can cause it. But it's also associated with a lot of modifiable factors that you control in terms of how you live your life. You know, it's about your kind of diet and your exercise and your stress. All this contributes to the sensitivity of the insulin receptors. All right, so this is associated with a reduced sensitivity of insulin receptors, and you can't package it away, okay? Over time, then you also will get pancreatic failure. That's the end stage, type 2 diabetes, okay? These are just, you know, some of the statistics. It's now, since 2016, it's gotten worse. So about 10% of our population has diabetes instead of indicated right here, okay? This is type 1, sorry, type 1 diabetes. Again, this is fairly rare, but it's in young people. Insulin dependent. All the same problems that we talked about: weight loss, loss of energy, thirst, urination. You also have a high risk because you can't use any of your sugar because you don't have any insulin. You start burning fat, and it makes ketone bodies in excess, and you can go into a severe emergency called ketoacidosis. It can cause coma, causes all these problems we see right here. Okay, awesome. All right. So you manage type 1 diabetes by monitoring your blood glucose. It used to be you do a pinprick, actually sample your blood, and look for levels of blood glucose. And if it starts getting high, you know that you need to inject insulin. Now there is a more a skin test that basically it's a patch, and so you have constant monitoring. And again, same drill. From the skin test, you get a readout of what the blood glucose is. And again, if it starts getting too high, then you know that you need to do an insulin injection. Okay, you're going to also practice some of these other healthy practices in terms of your lifestyle. Okay. So this was, again, the severe muscle wasting. It's an old picture in a type 1 diabetic. And then once he started doing insulin injections, he got much better. Type 2, okay, is the most common, all right? We look at people over the age of 40. Type 2 is when it is most likely to start, okay? So it would be the onset. It's associated with obesity, okay? It impacts minorities, especially when I say minorities, it's socioeconomically depressed people. All right, it affects poor people the most because they don't have the choices that that rich people have. Okay, the genetics, okay, in terms of risk, family history, right there. All righty, very cool. All right, same symptoms as we saw right here. Okay. This one right here it creeps up on you. So a lot of people don't realize they have type 2 diabetes, but they'll be experiencing all these symptoms that we see right up here. So we need to have, you know, this wellness thing that's going on, but really need to have better education about how these modifiable factors that we have can improve your likelihood of avoiding diabetes. That's eating right, physical activity, and then just being aware. Education is key. If you become a diabetic, then managing your symptoms effectively with lifestyle and with diet. You know, what's the risk factor of type 2 diabetes? Obesity, obesity, obesity. Having a sedentary lifestyle, okay, because your body adapts to using glucose. So if you don't do things, then over time, then your body becomes less efficient. There's age, again, is the biggest risk factor, is important for this part of the course. And then we have different risk factors in terms of our ethnic racial backgrounds. Alrighty, so this kind of just shows you how you can match pretty much one-to-one obesity in our country, and how we've had this obesity epidemic that's gotten worse and worse and worse over time, and how diabetes piggybacks on that. So it's estimated that 50% of diabetics are morbidly obese. Okay. And these are old numbers. I'm going to show you some new numbers where it's gotten much worse. But it's significant. When we're looking at our country, somewhere between 10 and 15% of our country are diabetics, and a big burden. Okay, because of all these problems, all right, that happen in terms of your health. Right here, there's a personal cost, there's a financial cost, and then at a society level, there's a huge cost. And this kind of goes through the money right here. It's actually accelerated. It's gotten worse to about $350 billion of financial burden in our country. Diabetes is kind of an oscillating state where you're having a little trouble controlling your blood glucose. It's because the wheels have been set in motion. And so your doctor will be able to check that. There's a couple tests. You can look at your glucose, your fasting blood glucose. You can do a glucose challenge test or tolerance test, and also monitor HbA1c. Okay, lots of new medication and lots of better awareness about prevention. Okay, and the key with prevention again is to modify your diet, improve your exercise, reduce your stress, all these kind of things. A1C, the measure says 7 right here. Most of the recommendations now are at 6.5 or less. Okay, it's important to maintain a lower blood pressure. Okay, because when you have high blood pressure, it causes damage to the blood vessels. That damage causes atherosclerosis, and then you run the risk of having a heart attack, stroke, and all the other things we were having. Again, these great habits for maintaining your health. Okay. And then this just a little preamble about education and research. Awesome. Okay, cool. So that's what that's all about, guys. This is a great atlas put out by the International Diabetes Foundation. This is a worldwide effort to bring education awareness. You can click on this and it'll take you to the document. It's large and it's comprehensive. And what we did is we just grabbed a couple of the more notable figures from that. And again, you can just choose the country that you're kind of most interested in. We see centered over the gray kind of flattened globe or a picture of the world in the background. And we see North America and the Caribbean. We have 51 million people with diabetes. South and Central America, 32 million. And you can just choose your area and you see how many people have diabetes. Okay, you see a pretty high risk factor out here in terms of the Western Pacific. Okay, and we can put it all together right here. Okay, and you can see there's this many people with diabetes globally, approximately. 3 in 4 adults with diabetes are from low-income countries, okay, and don't have access to the greatest diet. You don't have time to exercise. You have high levels of stress. All these contribute to this, okay? And then you don't manage your diabetes because you don't have good health care. This is how many people die annually because of diabetes. And, this is, the cost, worldwide is $1 trillion basically in managing diabetes. We come down here to we can choose North America, okay, and the Caribbean. So this is of course going to be dominated by us for the most part. 51 million people living with diabetes, okay. 1 in 4 adults having diabetes, and we see the cost at $415 billion. So it's enormous. Like I said, it's a vascular disease in the end, okay? So what happens is you're not controlling your blood glucose, and that really helps to create the perfect scenario for having atherosclerosis, which is a disease of your blood vessels, okay? And we see that it doubles the risk of heart disease. These are blood vessels that supply nutrients and oxygen to your heart muscle. Same thing for stroke, okay? Anywhere a blood vessel goes is going to be compromised. We see that in diabetes creates twice the risk of heart disease in men, even almost 4 times in women. And this is the leading cause of death, ultimately, is heart failure in diabetics. But you can see that all these other trajectories are there, okay? Obesity and being overweight is the #1 risk factor, okay? How do you fight this off? You do high levels of activity. If you have low levels of activity, that's a risk factor. High cholesterol, again, good diet, good levels of exercise help to fight this. High blood pressure causes damage to the blood vessels. Then the high blood glucose creates inflammation at that damage. The inflammation then causes atherosclerosis. Okay, and this is what you got to do. Okay, the ABCs. Lower your A1C by managing your blood glucose. Okay, quit smoking. Okay, because that exacerbates it, makes things worse. If you are now diabetic, you've got to follow the directions. Okay, be compliant with your physician's wishes to manage your blood glucose. Do better in terms of diet. Do better in terms of exercise. This is our country. 2 in 5 Americans are going to develop diabetes in their lifetime. This is how many people. Figure we have 320 million people in our country. Of those 320, close to 15 million right now, if we took a snapshot, are going to be blind from diabetes. So that's pretty crazy. This right here explains the most common. Okay, this is over 90% of the cases are going to be type 2 age-related diabetes. Again, from an insensitivity of the insulin receptors to insulin that gets released by the pancreas. And this is a cool video explaining why this happens, why obesity causes this to happen. All right. And then this is a great video of John, and he goes through all of the different complications that has happened to him. Anywhere there's a blood vessel, these are the disease conditions, and they can be fatal conditions, okay? Increased risk of stroke, heart disease that can cause a heart attack, peripheral artery disease, okay, where you get really bad infections, have amputations. Neuropathy, you stop feeling the sensations of touch, so you have difficulty walking. Kidney disease, okay, you have to go on dialysis, okay? The kidneys are cleaning your blood 24 hours a day, baby, and if the blood vessels going to the kidney die off, then the kidney will die off, and then you basically have to be hooked up to a machine or get a kidney transplant. And like I said, blindness. Awesome. Okay, guys, you should have the quiz open. I've talked to that before. And now, okay, we have the discussion, which kind of relates back to, what is the biggest risk factor for diabetes? There's two. There's obesity and there's age. And it's how long over your lifespan that you've been obese that you have this accumulated risk, okay? So we come down here, and we're going to ask ourselves, what is obesity all about? This is a cool video. It gives kind of humanistic evolutionary perspective, and it's no big surprise. We've been when we look at humans, and for the roughly 10 million years that we've been on Earth, okay, we basically were out there foraging for food. It was really hard to come by, so there were long periods of fasting, and then we would stumble upon a tree that had all this fruit, or we would discover roots that were really nutritious, or we would started hunting and things like that, and then you would gorge yourself, and then you would have to fast and go on to the next one. Okay, so this is what we're designed for, and so we're designed to, when we see food, eat it. Okay, and now we live in a modern society where there's unlimited access to unlimited food, but our evolutionarily as human beings, we're still sitting there going, I want to eat. We overeat. Overnutrition leads to obesity. So that's what this video is all about. It's pretty cool stuff. Okay, we're going to ask you then to look at your BMI. All right, so this is a real quick one right here. And then there's a discussion right here in this article as to why the BMI is a measure that a lot of physicians use, a lot of insurance companies use in terms of giving, how much they're going to charge you for your health insurance or your life insurance, and it's really inadequate. Okay, and so we put right here, I think, a pretty appropriate week. LeBron James just passed Kareem. God, he's amazing. All right, most points ever scored over the entire career. Um, it was beyond 20,000 points. I can't remember what it was. And of course, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and we have Patrick Mahomes. Based purely on BMI that you can access right here, these guys would be considered a high risk BMI, maybe even obese, but it doesn't take into consideration how much muscle you have. Why is that? Okay, so let's take a look at our calculator. So you come right here, okay, and this takes you for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Talks about BMI, how it works. You click right here. This is your calculator, okay, and you put in your height, okay, you put in your weight, 165, and you calculate, okay, and there it is, okay. So my BMI is a 22.4, okay, so I'm in this healthy range, but you know what, I'm a skinny dude, you know. I could be 6 feet and 225 and be all muscle, and I would be in this range right here. So there's a problem with that, and you can certainly discuss that, okay. Okay. Um, you know, the better measure is to you do the BMI and then have another equation where you look at your hip to waist ratio. So the big risk in obesity is visceral fat. You know, not just this under the skin, but the fat that's lining your heart and lining your intestines. That's the risky one. Okay, so you get a measurement of what your waist is. Okay, compared to your hips. Add that to the BMI, and then you have a better calculation. And then there's a way of actually measuring how much body fat you have that it's not covered by insurance, but it's another really good measure. Okay, awesome. So we see down here, all right, these are the cutoffs for body mass index, okay? And you know, basically this is, you know, just an index that was used in this particular study. And so we're looking at men, we're looking at women, okay? And if you had this body mass index or more or higher, this was a comorbid condition that you're super high risk for: hypertension, high levels of cholesterol called dyslipidemia, diabetes, on and on and on. This is all part of the what's called the metabolic risk panel, okay? All right, or metabolic syndrome. We see down here again, you know, the goals, and these are, you know, again, you know, for most people, this is, you know, not a fair assessment. All right, so just put that out there. Then the second thing we want you to do is go ahead and have fun with this. Let's see what your longevity calculator, your life expectancy, okay? So we saw what your BMI is. Now let's take a look at your life expectancy. We'll take into consideration your height and weight as well. So I point the arrow to this one right here. So you go right here, and thank you. We got a delivery. And you see my head jerk back there. Here's your life expectancy calculator. You click right there, and you fill in the information. All right. For me, I'm a man. You see right here. I was born in June. I was born. When was I born? 30. And a long time ago, my friends. I'm like your great grandfather. All right. I was born in, believe it or not, 56. Okay. So I submit. All right. And there we go. All right. So this is the number of additional years I can expect to live, just based on just no other information. So it's kind of crappy if I put it out there. Okay. Based on what was happening in my cohort of people. All right. So I would rather be able to put in some information about my lifestyle a little bit here, and that's what this calculator allows you to do. Okay. So you just kind of go through this and you add to it and add to it and add to it and see what you come up with. Okay. All right, that's your lifespan calculator. It's kind of long, but it's kind of thing that a insurance company will do. But you see, what's kind of cool about it is I'll put right here. I'll put 66. I'm a male. Okay, and let's go to the next part. All right, sorry. There. Now let's go to the next one. Okay, I'm 6 feet. Okay, I'll say 0. I say I'm 1. 65. Okay, boom. All right, just there. 82. All right, so let's see what's going on here. What describes my family? Okay, did I have a lot of problems? So you could do this one or this one to see how that changes the things. If I say this, then look at that. See, I got a little boost. Oh, go back. How about if I did this? Oh, loss, loss. Okay, so this is how that works. Kind of interesting. Go back and do it again. Okay, and there it is. All right, cool. All right, blood pressure. All right, normal. Boom, I got some more years. All right, so this is kind of fun. All right, my friends. So that's it. I want you to relax. I want you to enjoy this week, and I want you to get your CTs in tomorrow. Okay, guys? So that's it for now. Peace. We'll see you next time.